Hi guys, this is Dan. Today let's do something a bit different. Not long ago I finished The Poppy War by RFKuang. I know that I am a little bit late to the party, but I am still impressed by it. Instead of just praising how great this book is, why not share with you guys about what RFKuang has put in it to make it such a masterpiece? I am talking about the historical references here. RFKuang has integrated quite a lot of cultural and historical elements into her fantasy story, so I'll try to pick up as much as I can and discuss it with you guys. Without further ado, let's chat about them. In the beginning of the story, Rin don't want to marry this old guy arranged by her foster family, so she finds a tutor in her village and study very hard for the imperial exam. When they were studying, the tutor would throw some questions to her and Rin had to answer the question by a quotation from a classic. It is because imperial exam in ancient China got a really long history for around 1,000 years. In Ming Dynasty, the one before the Poppy War was inspired by, they changed the exam format into something called the 8-part essay. In short, there were strict rules regarding how you answer questions, how many words you can use in your answers. You can't recite the classics wrong and you can't make up your answers. Examinee had to study, or should we say recite, 4 books and 5 classics. In short, they are like poems, important words, and wisdom associated with Confucianism. So you now understand how stressful this exam gonna be and why Rin had to study so hard for it. So you can already imagine for the examiner, it is so easy to mark a paper because there are strict rules about it. Also, in a sense, it can promote stability because everyone gonna study the same materials. On the other hand, you don't have to study anything other than the 4 books and 5 classics. You encourage the students to recite rather than answering the questions with their own words, with their own criticism. So the officials working for the emperor will be so loyal because there's nothing critical to say. After this exam, like in the story, you're gonna have a very stable job and ensure mobility to climb up this social ladder. In a modern sense, I guess you can say it is like working for the government as a civil servant. So in the beginning of the story, Rin and other examinees has to be checked thoroughly, just in case you're gonna cheat. Hey, I mean you can write down every quote from the classics and just looking at it and answer the paper, so they have to check very strictly. After this imperial exam, Rin luckily got an offer from a military school. And in here, we're gonna see some more characters from different regions. One thing I did notice is where are these students coming from? More specifically, the province. Rin, rooster, Lian, hare, Jun, tiger, Naja, dragon. These provinces are all named after the 12 Chinese zodiac. What year you're born determines the animal that's gonna represent you. Let's take 2024 as an example. It is the year of dragon. Dragon is always this strong, powerful, sacred animal, so couples would like to have a dragon baby, if you know what I mean. It's not too late yet. And the order of these 12 animals, I will pop it on the screen. There is a story about these animals trying to compete for this order by crossing the river. Coming to the first in the race gonna win you a first place on the order. If you come in the second, you win the second place. So the animal in the first place is the rat. Coming last is the pig. Speaking of these provinces, why not also have a look at the map? As you can see, it is quite clear that the Nikara Empire is China now. The Federation is Japan. Spear, this isolated island, I guess it is like Taiwan. In this military school, our students gonna study in different lessons. One of them is the martial art. June in the lessons explain martial art with 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, earth. These 5 elements as a principle is widely used in Chinese medicine, philosophy, feng shui, fortune telling, and also martial arts itself. When the fortune teller asks your date of birth, they're gonna do some calculation with the nature and the positions of the stars. Then maybe they will say you are lacking in certain elements and you're gonna do certain things or put some things, accessories, in certain directions to promote the luck. Or you can even apply it in business. Let's say you're a business owner. Where you sit or in what direction you put certain decorations, accessories gonna also promote your sales. These 5 elements got a generating or overcoming relationship. It is like yin and yang in short. Wood can fuel fire, which is a generating relationship, but fire can melt metal, which is a overcoming relationship. Speaking of martial art, I guess we have to talk about Kung Fu, the family art as well. It is originally for self-defense, hunting, or military training. You may use other weapons other than your fist with different kind of stance, forms, and application. In the Poppy War, quite a lot of the wealthy students has already mastered their family art since very young. Every style supposedly can only be inherited by their family or specifically chosen students, especially, this signature move, like the claws, like the talents, something like that. Usually your style will be named after your family. After the martial art lessons, we have the strategy class. We always heard about Sun Tzu. In Chinese history, is Sun Tzu Art of War. It is written in the 5th century BC and often seen as a very important way to learn strategy in warfare. These 13 chapters explain from weapons, environmental condition, and strategy to rank and discipline. In the class from the Poppy War, we have this story about Sun Tzu. After he wrote about this art of war, he went to see the king of Wu at that time, but the king was not quite convinced by these strategies. So he asked Sun Tzu, "Can you train our women in the palace?" And Sun Tzu said, "Why not?" So he took out all the weapons for them, saying which form you should use and also showing them the punishment if you don't follow the rules. Now Sun Tzu gave them an order. The woman just laughed. Sun Tzu thought, maybe I didn't explain the rules quite clear enough, so he did it again. Now Sun Tzu gave them another order, but the woman still laughed. This time Sun Tzu has explained everything, so the responsibility lies on the commanders of this woman, also the ones that the king loved. Even so, Sun Tzu executed the commanders. So now we got this idiom explaining the importance of clear rules and orders, as well as the punishment if breaking any of them. I'm not sure can you remember this, but from the strategy class we also got an answer from Kita, where he said you can borrow the arrow from the enemies by using scarecrow. It is also from a folk story known as the Romance of Three Kingdoms, where a very famous strategist, Zhuge Liang, borrowed the arrows from the enemy, Cao Cao, when they were in a massive disadvantage. By this smart move, he turned the tide and win this battle. In the class with Xian, Rin discussed how she's gonna relate herself to the environment, to the nature, and it is about Taoism or Taoism. So now it is quite difficult to explain this philosophy. I have to look at my script. Some Taoists believe the spirits pervaded nature, both the natural world and also the internal world within the human body. Taoism offers a holistic approach to spirituality, emphasizing alignment with the Tao, harmonizing with natural forces and cultivating inner vitality and awareness. Taoism emphasizes living in harmony with the natural order of the universe, known as the Tao or Tao. This involves attuning oneself to the rhythms of the nature, cultivating simplicity and embracing spontaneity. The spirit world is inhabited by deities, immortals, and spirits, and Taoist rituals and ceremonies often involve interactions with these beings to seek their blessings and protection. So later in the book, we're gonna know why Rin and other shamans has to do certain things to be in the spiritual world to get the power from the gods. In this school, Rin always received discrimination because of her skin color. I know that it is quite weird to say, but even now in Asia, people still think looking tan is not as good looking as looking white. Tanner skin color always associated with working outside for a very long time. You do labor work outside, so you got a very tan color. In a way, it means that you're coming from a poorer family. Looking white is still quite common, popular in Asia now. There are quite a lot of cosmetic powders, skin treatments to whiten your skin. Coming to the UK, I find it the exact opposite. People always welcome tan and you can easily find tanning shop in the town. I guess part of the reason is to show people that you enjoy outdoor activities. You spend tons of time outside to work out, so you got this healthy skin color. Here you can see a cultural difference between Asia and the West. From Rin's swearing, you can always see tiger, tortoise, and from the conversation you will notice 4 special animals: dragon, tiger, tortoise, and the bird. They are actually 4 mythical creatures that are defending 4 directions, and they are all paired up with a color. The white tiger of the west, the black tortoise of the north, the azure dragon of the east, and the feminine bird of the south. Other than these 4 animals, we also got Xilin, the yellow dragon, defending the center. Later in the story, Rin and Adeline went to a place called Chulukori, hoping to release their friend Phelan. Here they also talk about a god called the Jade Emperor. With how they're gonna imprison all these shamans, it reminds me of another folk story called the Journey to the West. Very briefly, it is about a monk with his companions traveling to the west, which is India now, to get a special passage. On their way, they're gonna meet some monsters who wanna eat the monk, because by doing so, they thought they can live forever. So this journey is always full of dangers. One of the companions is actually a monkey, Before meeting this monk, he was trapped under this massive mountain called the Five-Finger Mountain. It is actually a punishment from the Jade Emperor, because before this monkey is actually very naughty, messing around the palace that the Jade Emperor and other godlings live in. So, here your punishment, trapped under a mountain. After all these classes, lessons in the military school, we know what's gonna happen next. The invasion of the Federation. After reading this part, I would say it is inspired by the Opium Wars and also the Sino-Japanese War. Even though there is record of using opium for medical purpose in China before, not until in the 19th century, Britain exported tons to China to make it popular. At that time, opium, this drug, was renamed for marketing, saying that by taking it you can be so happy forever to attract potential buyers. There are literally photos of rows of people taking opiums together, and you can already imagine how serious the addiction was. People won't do anything, just smoke the opium together. To combat this serious social problem, the ruling government at that time was called Qing. They tried to negotiate with the British. They even caught them smuggling opium and threw all of them to the bottom of the sea. This of course angered the British government and marked the start of the First Opium War in 1839. In 1842, China lost this war and had to pay for the loss, opening up ports for exchange and also cede territories, which is Hong Kong Island. Even with this loss, the Qing government didn't stop its effort to ban opium, this drug. But this time, China was not facing Britain alone, because Britain found its ally, France. This is the start of the Second Opium War in 1856. One thing to note is that the Allies, the French and the British, took all the treasures from a place called the Old Summer Palace, which was supposed to be very beautiful. Coming to now, there are even auctions for these treasures from the Old Summer Palace all over the world, and they are sold for tons of money. And so there are debates about should you return these treasures back to the Old Summer Palace, because they are supposedly belong to China. However, China lost again in 1860. Once again, they have to pay for the loss and allow foreign businessmen to travel to its territories. These two wars greatly severed the ruling of the Qing government and also suffer from huge financial loss. 30 years later, China has to face another threat, Japan. Just a little bit for the background, in 1868, Japan went through Meiji Restoration. By different reforms, it restored political abilities and consolidated the political system under the Emperor of Japan. It successfully transformed Japan into this new superpower, highly industrialized, adopting Western ideas and their production methods. This newly arisen superpower can even defeat another strong nation at that time, Russia. Around the same period of time, the Qing government also wanted to be industrialized by buying weapons from the West. So these two nations fought the First Sino-Japanese War in 1894. China lost again and had to pay for reparation and also cede territories to Japan. The invasion of the Federation from the Poppy War is actually inspired by the Second Sino-Japanese War in 1931. When you think about the Second World War, the first thing coming to your mind is probably the wars in Europe, or maybe later the American participation. But the Second Sino-Japanese War is like the part of the Asian warfare in the World War II. In a very short term, the Qing government at that time has already been overthrown. This political instability or vacuum gave the militaristic Japan a very good chance. Japan can easily take over the territories of the northern China. In relation to the Poppy War, I can come up with 3 important points. Firstly, it is about what happened in Gonanese. In the book, the Federation has done some horrible things to the people living in there. There are different ways of tortures and how they're gonna treat the bodies. This also happened in real life, called the Nanjing Massacre in 1937, which lasts for 6 weeks. Japan had committed a series of war crimes, including arson, massacre, and rape. There is no official statistic about the death count because before Japan surrendered, they have already destroyed all of the data. But it is generally agreed that over 200 people were killed. There was even a very horrible competition. 2 Japanese generals trying to compete who gonna be the first one to take down 100 heads from the surrendered in Nanjing. At last, both have done it. After the war, this was final and they were both found guilty. They were executed in 1948. The second thing is about the pleasure house, which was mentioned by Fanke in the story. In real life, we have got the same thing, which is called the comfort woman. They were taken by the Japanese to provide them with sexual service. This did not just happen in China, but also Taiwan, Korea, Indonesia, and also the Philippines. The women being taken against their wills, most of them are not even adults. In Taiwan, it is estimated to have 2,000 comfort women. In Nanjing, there were 25,000 Japanese stationed during the war, with only 178 comfort women. On average, one comfort woman has to serve 140 Japanese men. With historical context and the importance of Confucianism, sexual intercourse before marriage was not well accepted. After the war, these comfort women were left alone by society, but now we should never forget them. In Seoul, there is a statue outside the Japanese embassy to remember this part of history. In Taiwan, there is a museum to keep a record of it. The last thing come to my mind is the Federation experiment on the innocent. In the story, Rin and Adeline was taken by them and see how special their body was. They were tortured and mistreated during the experiment, and in real life, we have the 731 unit from Japan, taking the organs out alive from those who have captured in the war. Let's say soldiers, women, and kids from anywhere. They would even conduct experiments without consent, let's say injecting virus or bacteria and then observe your behaviors, exposing poison gas in a room, putting a mom and a kid in a superheated room to see if the mom would do anything to protect the kid from the heat. After experiment, biological weapons like poison gas will be used in the battlefield, like in the story. So here are all the historical references of the Poppy War. You can tell RFKuang has done extensive research and integrate all of them into her fantasy story, which is the reason why I enjoyed reading this so much. If you have enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a like. If you don't want to miss any content from me, make sure you have subscribed to my channel. I'll see you real soon. Goodbye!